Research is shaping Research is shaping the imaginative unknown into reality. Managing research means to implement faster than the ever-changing world. Executing research management with success means excellence of collaboration. Research in Germany alone is a $150 billion industry to be managed for 43,000 plus researchers across organizations and fields. Performing this purpose with passion is a stalwart whose many stalwarts rolled in one, Dr. Elisabeth Holuscha. How do I describe her? She has been the flag bearer of the prestigious institutional marketing for DAAD. DAAD, which is a collaboration of more than 427 institutions of higher education having its presence in 60 countries. From there to being the head of international affairs of the University of Applied Sciences Köln, which hosts 27,000 students from 120 plus countries, having about 100 plus degree programs and partnership with close to 300 institutions of higher education across the globe. From there, she went on to lead as the head of Mount Everest of research excellence, the Research Center Jülich. The Research Center Jülich, which hosts Nobel Laureates and many international acclaimed scientists under its wings, several hundred patents and projects. And to sum it all, it has research revenues of close to $1 billion. This is huge by any standards. It gives me great pride and privilege to warmly welcome the leader, the expert organization strategist, speaker at policy determining events, and international networker, Dr. Elisabeth Holuscha. Welcome, Dr. Elisabeth Holuscha.
Hello, I'm really all the best from Cologne. It's great to be here with you, and thank you for the very warm, nicely welcome of you. That was very kind. Thank you.
Thank you. And the first question to you, Dr. Holuscha, you have performed so many pivotal roles, leading organizations, multi-million and billion dollars of revenues, peoples. Which role has been the most challenging so far for you?
Yeah, they're so different. So they are always in a different way challenging. My personal experience of leading different teams in different organizations, from my personal result out of it is that there is not this only one leadership skill that you have or have not. I think you really can start to talk over about leadership if you experience with more than 1, 2, 3 to 4 teams. Then you realize how different it is, and you realize it's not only in a nice way, because sometimes things, structures, personalities that worked out quite well in a different situation and with different people do not work out in complete different circumstances. So this is, I guess, at least for me, it was being the head of, director of, and anything else. I said, oh, okay, everybody like this way, and now I'm in a different institution, and I cannot work, and then I have to change. I have to rearrange my ideas of a leadership. And I think the most important experience is, for me at least, is that leadership is nothing that one person do. You lead each other. the team is leading the head of on director, and you learn from each other. It's a learning progress, and you have to teach in a way or advise also the leading personality and vice versa. And this is something that is a challenge for every new position you get into it. It's something completely different. If you start you build your own team, you hire everybody else by yourself, and you already come up with your own culture from the very first day. Or if you come in a new position and you have already 20 people there, and then you start with a leading culture or a team culture and anything else. So that's a complete different game. And I think to change this and to realize it, that it's always something different, and you always start not directly at zero, but you start at least from the beginning. I think this is in general something that is really challenging, because I think the most people would prefer that you have kind of one role model that works with all teams, but it does not. Sorry, it does not. So you have to rearrange yourself and also your principles and your ideas of team working, of leadership, of everything else. So this was really a lessons learned situation or idea or circumstances that, at least for me, it was a lessons learned. That was very important, and I always talk people into it. It's not only one way, there are so different ways, and it's not only depending on one person, it's depending on everyone, and you have to learn from each other.
That is so many things rolled out in one answer. You were speaking of leadership styles, different leadership styles. You're speaking of the leader herself to be agile.
Yeah.
This is one of the greatest traits of a leader, that she's talking about being agile to adapt to leadership styles, to connect to the team, and also adopt different ways to make that happen and implement cultures. What has been more interesting or challenging? The resource optimization in those positions, or implementing culture, or leading?
Oh, sorry, Niketa, I cannot hear you anymore, and the picture is frozen. So I don't know if you can.
I can hear you.
You can hear me, okay. So could you just please repeat the last two sentences, because the picture was frozen, so I didn't get it. I'm sorry.
Sure. No, that's perfect. So you've spoken about so many things of the leader being agile herself and bringing in different leadership styles. You've spoken about connecting to the teams, but bringing a culture, not always from ground zero, but from scratch for the most part, but also leading, because there are internal stakeholders and there are external stakeholders. They are all watching on you. So what has been more challenging? Working with the internal stakeholders, aligning that, working on the mission, or connecting to the external stakeholders?
First step, always the internals, the team. It's not about only different cultures in a team, it's also different cultures that an institution has. That's what you cannot ignore the culture of an institution. And this is something that influences also every member of an institution, and it always influences and shaping your team as well. So I think this is really would be the first thing and of importance. And that if you come in as a new leader or director, head of whatever you name it, I always would recommend step back the first days. step back the first 100 days, that you have an idea about the culture. How are people, what's important in this institution? Not only about the relationships among the people or something, so really about the culture. What is the claim, what they are standing for, what they're saying between the gap, what they're actually doing. So because we have all the great wording and the strategies and everything else, but what is actually behind them? How, on what can you actually count? And you also, of course, and I would even say there's a number 4, that's also the backup of the president of an institution, or somebody who's even one step maybe above you, or a steering committee, or whatever you always have. So that's something else, as it's playing at least in my experience, an important role, that you find out quite fast, is this only talking people or also doing people? Can you rely on them? Can you trust? Actually, it's a lot about, I think, trust in this kind of co-working. Externals and the missions, because especially working in a political field. Yeah, talking about it's a lot of money in research activities in Germany, and you have, of course, the political players that trying to enforce some special programs and also have their, I wouldn't say fight is too maybe too hard vocabulary, but a struggle with among one ministry. They have to share the money as well. So which one is the most successful program? How many do apply for it? So this is also very important, because as I realized, I have already even in this field, most very positive, but I have my prejudice. I have some, I going in the ministry, and I have some prejudice about how the people are, what they are into it, and how well educated they are, maybe how strategic they're acting, how objective, how streaming to one point focus. And that's something you, of course, interacting, you always do a kind of adjustment. Even so, if you have it in a positive way, you still have to check on your ideas, your prejudice about, not only about people, but also about institutions. So that would be my internal and external in a different way.
Really wonderful inputs. And after handling such a large organization, and the research center, Jülich, such $1 billion worth of research revenues is a large amount. Thousands of scientists working, so many patents and projects working. These days, since 2019, you're developing the third-party funding strategies for universities and assisting for them to secure multi-million euro grants through public and private sources through Plan W. Why such a need?
Well, after like 2 decades in public institution, I thought time for a second career maybe, and started all over. Seriously, talking about we in the project management at the research center in Jülich. We were like the transfer in between the people with the money and the researchers, and we had to rearrange it that they get the good research programs get the money. And we realized in so many fields, people had really good ideas, but could not write it down in an understandable, proper, good way. Usually scientists, researchers, have some serious problems to explain a good idea for more than their colleagues. Not only, and if you in a commission, and if you have to choose which projects get the money, then it's usually what people say in the commission. When I understand it, what the project is about, it's easier for me to judge it in a positive way. And sometimes I thought, well, maybe this idea, maybe the Commission does not quite understand, but it's not the problem of the Commission, it's the problem of the researcher, that he or she cannot do the translation of the project to an, it doesn't have to be childish or for the grandma. So that's what people always ask, does my grandma have to understand my research project? Well, it always depends on the grammar, of course, but still it has to be understandable and not only for experts. And so then we thought, well, maybe that would be helpful to get a little bit of like this inside information. It's not better if you write it more complicated. To reduce complexity is not a shame, that that is a good one. It's helpful for everyone, you know, like how do I communicate research? That's a little bit the question about. And nowadays we just realize in a more daily basis with the pandemic, so we have more researchers on TV explaining actually research, and it's getting more common that it's possible. It's nothing to be ashamed of if you can explain your research to somebody else beneath your research colleagues. So I think that was the intention that we start to do. Okay, we have to talk directly with the institution, with universities, and not we are coming from the ministry and we tell you what you have to do. So that was the intention, like now 4 years ago. Yeah.
So is it
exciting?
Working?
Yeah, it's
working
very. Sorry, please go ahead.
No. Is it working for one researcher or one research institution? What does Plan W focus on?
Both, actually. We working with group of researchers if we are into the organization, the writing of one research paper, and we also do support consulting for whole institutions if they have to decide how to spend their money, what strategic focus do we have to look at. And actually it's like more the support to with the method of strategic thinking kind of a way, the focusing, and it's usually most time it's the part of an external advisor that you structure the people for others, because you are in the institution, you have your special view on it, and then that's the situation when you sometimes lost the track. So that's when we come in and put you always back. So, but now tell me again, what's your aim? What's your goal? What are you going to do to come to this point? And what and how do you know that you actually arrived at your goal, or you fulfilled your goal? And that's a very important question. That's how do you define success? Yeah, that's and I don't know if it's international. In Germany, it's not that easy to actually go in a leadership to decide to say, yes, I'm going to focus on this faculty, on this research point, on this, and that means that others are getting less money. In Germany, it's very common that everybody gets a little money, and this is not very strategic. So that's always, yeah, that's exciting, definitely.
So talking about that, what is your view on competitive versus non-competitive funding for the universities or institutions? And would you support one over the other?
I think you definitely need the competition, because like we have it worldwide, is this kind of peer-reviewed system that peers review your research papers, not only in journals, also for research funding, of course. But I think you need, because research as universities, as institutions are very diverse, and I do not think that one size fits all. And we in Germany, and that's not of a secret, that's what I tell everyone in every seminar and workshop, we have a very conservative structure. Yeah, we have a very, it's not very fast. It's it can take you a year. In between, we have programs in your you apply for a program and you get to know if you are successful or not 1 or 2 years later, and this depends of all the regulations, the answer, the questioning. Like this is missing, another stamp is missing. You didn't. Why do you have to journey to twice a year to Japan or whatever? So this is a very conservative system, and it's more helpful for experienced research, not for the younger one, because it's always asking for your list of publications. And so if you're a newcomer, and I think the system has to be attractive for younger researchers. And if you have a system that only asking for things that you only can have if you already couple of years in business, you do not start with a publication in science or something like this. This is not possible. So you have to be really keen in the beginning, keep on going, and not be afraid of retrying everything again and again. So I think this makes it very difficult for younger researchers that maybe because of this decide to go to not take the research way and go to industries or business or something like. And these people are missing in the academic world. And so I think you need the competition, but not only in one size fits all. It needs a diverse system. That would be something that I would go for.
That's so beautifully said, that one size doesn't fit everyone, and that's why we have the world of customization. That is why it's the right application, not application in terms of form, but the idea to the money and that bringing results. So that's very vital. But you've also spoken about collaboration while you were mentioning your last statement of Germany or making a trip to Japan. What is the funding and the future outlook of the universities of applied sciences in Germany in reference to funding? Is it collaborative research funding, or what is it that you're seeing in your world around you?
I would say in general that it's collaborative funding, because that's usually you can see it quite well by the European programs. So that's what they're starting. Usually it's coming back to all the other countries, especially when in Germany, so that they do a lot of orientation at the European programs, but especially for the universities of applied sciences, because they were always very strong in collaboration, in international collaboration, because they were really looking for strong partners outside their own country, because at the beginning of if they came up, the traditional universities, there was a little bit, no, I don't know if we're going to collaborate. I'm not quite sure if you're a real university. So they went abroad, and the international world is not it's also of course judging, but if you come up with results, if you say, but we can offer you something in exchange, then the international community is quite often very open-minded to different structure and do not care about other circumstances. So there was always a strength for the University of Applied Sciences to going collaboration with international institutions, and in their own country, in Germany, to have their strong relationship and exchange with business communities, of course, because they have a business background from their teaching, the professors, and so they already come to university and bring their connection to any kind of different international or less international business institution, and that the collaboration, it's in their DNA actually. So that should be. I would say I would really recommend to collaboration, you know, you're working in an international field, how important it is. And this is, I would say, always a good choice.
You opened up another two big Pandora boxes. One is
again.
You are a wealth of information, experience, and the viewers would love to take so much from you. So collaboration, is it good to go as per the country? So is the inclination towards this country vis-a-vis a field or institutions, or does the field take a prime spot as compared to the country, field or an institution? So that's one question. And the second question is about the research and the industry collaboration, your views on that. How much is still tapped and how much is still waiting to be tapped? Because I enjoy that the industry should come together to bring in live problems for the live solutions, but how much is still untapped so far? So two questions.
About the field or the field and the nation. What's of course, the luckiest, the best case if both come together and you do not have to make the decision. This is, of course, but you're not, of course, you cannot always get it all. I actually would go more for the field, because that, especially when you're at the beginning of your career, that's something that makes you feel more secure, because that's your expertise. That's how you start. And later on, if you're only starting to come up with your network, you're specialized, you field network, then you can expand and look for maybe other interesting on other how do you say, for other reasons, what will be good to come up with a collaboration. But first, before you kind of have too many open borders for collaboration, I would focus and concentrate, especially at the beginning of the career, on your expertise and go for the field. That I think that strengthens you, that makes you secure, and you need to be secure to have success in the scientific and the academic world. So at least that's my experience, and that's everything that can empower you in this is definitely helpful for your further career. Yeah. And
how much of the industry, academia, so we are always talking about industry research, industry-backed research or industry academia partnership. So how much is still untapped? This field where industry and the research organizations can collaborate. They are collaborating, some of them, and some of them are still on the verge of doing that. But how much is still untapped? How much percentage? What do you think?
I would probably raise a higher number than average, because now working with so many different institutions, I still always hear how difficult it is to match business industry with research fields of institutions of higher education. So that's always what we get as a question: how do I find partners? What is a good platform? Where do I meet them? How do I contact? Can I just write an email? And I'm talking not about PhD students asking these questions. I'm talking about professors. Yeah? And this is really a difficulty. So I would say that we are far. In Germany, we always emphasize actually that we are very close with industry and business. So we have the Universities of Applied Sciences, as the name already says, Applied Sciences. And for example, we have technical universities that also very, very close. We have the big association of the 9 technical universities in Germany. The TU9, for example. So these are, we have the university with the highest income of research funding since the last at least 5 years is always the Technical University in Aachen, for example. So and you cannot have this high numbers if you just go for the federal funding. You have a lot of industry funding also. So so in this special settings, I would say that they're very close, they are very interactive, they know how to find partners, but these are maybe 10% of the landscape that we have. We have so many others. They say, I really would like to do something with industry, but I have no idea how. So and this is also and the other point, even if universities get to interact and to collaborate and come up with research projects, something that we always say, please don't do it, don't go to industry or any kind of institution. And with the attitudes, we can solve your problems. Just tell us what your problem is, come to our labs, and we solve everything for you because we know better, because we are academics. So if you really want partners, you have to keep eye on the same standard and get and solve problems together and invite industry and business to get in a dialogue and not to any questions. I have all the answers. Just ask me, I'm university. So this is changing. This is really changing because also the funding programs on federal state are asking for it. They ask, how do you collaborate? What does partnership for you mean? How do you interact? What is your governance structure? And this is and then we read it and saying, I go there and explain everything. And no. This is not what they ask for. Or you can write it, but you probably won't gain the funding. So this is a very interesting development because it's like more that the program are asking for it and not that the institution, besides some very positive examples, but I would guess the really good institution that we have and that really interact on the same level with industry and see it as a partner, as a dialogue, I would guess 10 to 15%. The good one, the excellent ones. So you can say by yourself what the other figure is.
So this is very, very interesting to know that how even larger organizations are wanting the industry to come together, to come forward and participate, so that it's more the real age solutions that the researchers are bringing out rather than reinventing the wheel again.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in Germany, research funding is intended to finance the development of new ideas and technologies. This encompasses everything from basic research in natural science to new technology to structural research. But there is still a large focus on knowledge transfer. So research and knowledge transfer and international mobility. How successful is that in the world that you're seeing around?
Yeah, I would say, well, okay, during the last 2 pandemic years, internationalization was, no, it was a little bit not shut down, not at all, because also when I talked to universities, I was surprised that so many things are still going on, that students are coming to Germany, students are going abroad. It was, I would have guessed it's worse, what it means. So, and on the international, especially on mobility, I think this is working out quite well as I get to know it. And I have hardly any complaints from institutions of higher education. I think this is, we really have the, as you already mentioned, we both know the DAAD, the German Academic Exchange Service, and they're doing a really good job. They have a great international network, and you know the people who work abroad are very well skilled and very helpful and supportive, especially for any kind of exchange. You always can ask and call for any kind. It's not they always can fund everything and say, yeah, just name it and you get the money. But I think that in comparison to other European countries, I think is Germany, they're in a very, very good position, especially in mobility in both ways, because they really, really do expend a lot of money to get international students to Germany, and also sending, but also welcoming international students. And that I would say there's hardly any effect they do not try to reach, or any program, and very open for new ideas actually. So this of course you always can do something whatever better, but all in among European countries this is quite well.
Mm-hmm. And there are many campaigns to reflect that.
Yeah.
How do funding agencies review operational efficiency of the university? And what can a university do to excel in this area?
Activities about research programs?
No, about operational efficiency, because this is the taxpayers' money. So it's also very vital that every cent is rightly utilized. So we are talking about operational efficiency. So how do funding agencies review operational efficiency, and what can institutions, universities do to excel in this area?
And this is a really excellent question, because this is like spotting the spot. This is a really hard one to really review. It is changing right now a little bit, also under the influence of the European programs. We now start to talk about the impact of research programs and research projects. So, and this is different how you apply for a project, how you describe your project, if you have to think about the impact from the very first idea. And this is something that the ministries by now is going to ask more often for it. Or we have the huge Stiftung, Volkswagen Stiftung in Germany. They rearrange this year all of the programs, and saying we will just give funding to projects that can explain us very clear what's the impact of the project is. And this is actually a game changer, even so not everyone is aware of it by now, because the people usually refuse it. How can I tell what the impact is? What do I know what is going to on in 3 or 5 years? And I'm a fan of this new model, because I'm always trying to explain the researchers, but if you do not know what the impact is, if you cannot explain that you're going for any kind of impact, and the first thing, impact, is that you're going to change something. That's it. That's about impact. You're going to change something in a positive or negative way, but at the very beginning. So, and if you do not want to change everything, so why do we have to start a project and give you all the public money for it? So please explain it to us. And then that's why people really dislike it to talk about impact, is that they have to come up with indicators. And at the end of the game, it's saying, so what makes a project successful? And this is a really hard one, because the people say, no, I'm not going to tell. I don't want this. This is too much regulation for my project. But you really, really have to rethink the whole project. If you come and say, I have my research question, or I have my thesis, or whatever, and then it's not talking about impact. It's not only a chapter in a research program. It's the whole project. You start from the very beginning, because then on my focus group, what do I want to change? What effect do I want to have, not during my project time, but beyond?
Yes.
So what was going to do? It's about climate. It's my project at the end of the day. Is it that it's going to support climate change? not as a negative, not support, but you know what I mean. Or do I want to change culture of students, or do I want to really have what, or even a small impact? Maybe I want just, my impact is that this kind of skills is going to be more effective, or this is going to be cheaper, or this is going to be faster. It doesn't matter, but you have, it's not, you're not supposed to do only the project because of the project. And that's why you have to allow this kind of question, but from somebody who's giving you a lot of money. And the person wants to know, what is this about? And that's something you actually can review. And I think the benefit is that the researcher can always define by him or herself what indicators he or she wants to add. It's not that the money is telling you you have to have this kind of impact. It's your choice, you define it. And if you say you want to have internationalization in the institution, and internationalization is for you a lot of international students, then this is your indicator. But if you want to raise the question about intercultural competences, then you have to define what intercultural competences are. And this is, it's possible, you can make it, but it's a little bit complicated. So that's, but by now, sorry, I always have so long, I'm sorry, I have to cut down my answers. You're asking me so interesting questions. You see, I'm getting all over it. All my topics are asked for. No, I'm sorry. Right now it's difficult. With an impact factor, it's getting more and more possible to ask or to review in a how to say, yes, a more objective or senseful way, maybe, to ask the project for this kind of review. So I promise I make the next answer shorter. I promise.
No, there is so much that you have, and I think we should do another series also with you, because you are an ocean of treasures with so much experience, and you've done so much. Basically, you've executed so much. What is that one thing that you still wish to do through Plan W? What is that one Mount Everest that you want to conquer from Plan W?
You have so tough questions this evening. No, that's no, it's not so. There is not this one thing actually that I could name. The idea why we started with Plan W actually was to really help people to come up with better research projects, and not with better, to make this translation that they have a chance. Of course, if you have a really bad idea, it's not, if you can write a good proposal, it's still a bad idea. But I think the worst case is you have a good idea and you write it in a bad way, and then you're not getting the funding, because that's how it is. So this is, I think there was, if we can really come up with some project with our support that actually get the funding, but I didn't come up yet by now with one big goal or one university or one study project. This is not easy for me to answer, but it's a good idea to think about it, that maybe I should have a final goal for myself. I come up with a complete new idea in a couple of years again, and then maybe I want to be president of an institution or something like this. We'll see. I don't know.
Amen. Because it's the people who are on the positions, pivotal position, that make the difference. I always believe in that. And as your PhD thesis has been, success or failure, how are you defining? You are in the business of making whatever ideas people come from to make that successful, through quantifying it and through the right expression. I personally wish you all the very best in all that you're doing. May you have more energy, more power. The world needs more of you, more replicas of you. But you have been a role model, not just for me, but for many, many people around the world and who are inspired. Thank you very much for your time, your inputs, and thank you for also sharing the insights, how they should look at things, how they should quantify the qualitative and collaboration and a lot of other aspects that you've mentioned. Thank you very much. And
I think it was great. It was great. It was really interesting, and you were so well prepared. You had so focused questions to me. I was like, oh, I have to think it over. And really great. I really enjoyed talking to you and answer your question. Maybe next time a little bit shorter, of course, but still, it was a great pleasure and honor to be part of your project. I really enjoyed it, and wish you also all the best. And we can talk this over. You know, it's just topics that I'm fully interested in. So you can ask me, and I'm getting all enthusiastic about any topic and keep talking. So anytime again, I would be my great pleasure and honor.
So viewers, if you have any question, Dr. Elisabeth Holuscha is always welcome to answer. You can reach out to her or to us. The email is queries@exponentconsultants.com, and she runs Plan W, which is very famous, not just in Germany, but internationally. You can reach out to her too. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.